not so distant future, the world almost ended. Not from war, not from AI, but from a podcast episode.
Our podcast episode.
We thought semester 2 of Sheltered Sages would just be more of the usual. Two formerly sheltered homeschoolers taking a fresh look at the messiness of life, one ridiculous Reddit story at a time.
Turns out, one of those stories broke reality.
So we built a time machine, don't ask how, and traveled back to where it all began, to warn ourselves.
And to bring in backup.
The only people who might understand why we're so weird, so awkward, so homeschooled.
Our parents.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sheltered Sages, the show where two formerly sheltered homeschoolers, now adults, talk about the complexities of life, one crazy Reddit story at a time. I am Andrew.
And I am Philip. Well done.
Yeah,
you got it.
Not messed me up at all. I definitely didn't mess up saying it multiple times and prep for the episode to start. But yeah, we're back. It is officially semester 2.
Officially semester 2. First episode of semester 2. We have been waiting for a long time. If you've seen in our teasers and our other trailers and stuff like that, it's been a good bit of time. We've been busy.
Yes.
I know we made the whole joke that we haven't been doing anything. We've just been sitting around, just like waiting. But no,
that was literally, we had to force that time in so that we can make those videos because
Absolutely.
we could not find time to do it otherwise. But yeah, so as you can see, we are not in our normal recording space. I'm sure he's zoomed out at this point in time. And if not, he's going to probably zoom out now and reveal the other guests that we have with us. But as you can see, we are joined by two groups of very special people.
Yeah, so we have my father over here.
Hello.
And then we have my mother over here.
Hi.
Awesome. And then obviously on my right, I've got my parents. This is my dad. Say hello, Dad.
Hello.
Thank you. And then my mom.
Hi.
So this is just for the people listening at home who only have audio. They need to know, like, okay, registering who the person is with the voice.
Yes.
And figuring all that out.
I mean, you'll probably be able to figure it out because my parents, I sound a lot like a parent. I was about to say, my parents sound a lot like me. I sound a lot like my parents, so you probably get like I don't think I have an accent. But some people say I do have an accent that's there. So same for you, Andrew.
For us, yes.
It's like, okay, you'll be able to tell the voices. You'll be able to tell the laughs that are there as well.
Yes, you'll figure very quickly who I get my laugh from, if you haven't already. So, but yeah, so we're so excited. And like, this is very different from our normal setup because today we really did want to kind of start off the semester with a bang and interview the parents. Like, we ended our last semester talking about like the different homeschool stories and experiences that people have, but we thought instead of just continuing to sit down and read stories from other people, we should talk to two groups of people who did it from the ground up. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to interview the parents, and we're gonna see what crazy choices they made that led us to be homeschooled and the awesome things that came from that.
Yeah.
So
we already had the intro. We already had the music. So I guess you get to ask the first question.
All right. So yeah, we're going to get started. I think a good ease-in question for everyone. We're going to start with, what did you first think when you heard that your kids were making a podcast about being homeschooled? So let's direct this at you.
I was actually excited, just because Philip likes to do stuff like that. I've been encouraging all my kids, honestly, to do podcasts. So it was, I was really excited, a little bit nervous because I didn't know what he would say. But overall, I mean, it's his element. It's what he likes to do. So I was just happy to hear that he was doing something he enjoyed.
Awesome. Father, do you have something?
I think one thing is it was called Sheltered Sages, and I was like, if I needed to do a podcast to rebut, what would we be as parents? What would we call it as parents? Yeah, it's exciting.
Love it.
As of now, there is no other podcast where they have rebuttals, just in case anyone's wondering.
For now, we'll see how the rest of the semester goes. All right. Well, Mom, what were your thoughts when you heard it?
I was excited also just to see your perspective from it. You know, as a parent, we always see how we homeschool, how you receive that, but to hear as an adult when you look back to see what it is. So I was excited about it. A little nervous too, wondering what might come out, you know, that I didn't expect or forgot about, but it's been cool. It's really neat.
What were your thoughts, Dad?
I thought it was going to be very interesting, to say the least. No, I thought it was good. I mean, it's you know, it's the medium of today and media of today, or medium, however you want to say it. And it's great to see, as Mom said, that see how you interpret what you learned and application, and you know, just kind of, it's like any other investment, right? We put a lot of time and energy over the years, and you know, it takes years to see the fruit of that labor and how it turns out. So it's kind of neat to see it in this format.
Very cool.
Fantastic. Right. So I guess I get to ask a question now, since you've already seen the episodes, and I hope you've been watching the episode. You don't have to watch or listen to all of them.
Please don't feel obligated.
But I guess the question now is, what is your favorite episode? And we'll start with Andrew's mom.
Oh, okay. I had to go back and look at some of the titles and remember it, because a lot of those happened when my daughter was in the hospital and we were working on getting through that. So a lot of that was foggy, but I loved the sibling ones where y'all talked about the different siblings, to hear it from your perspective of things you did, like the crazy pranks and, you know, different things like that. And I really liked the homeschooling one where y'all answered the questions. I was impressed with your y'all had a lot of passion in that. with that, and just your love for, I think, what you did and what you stand up for with the homeschooling.
I think you had the same favorite.
Exactly. That was my favorite one too. I guess because of the family dynamic, you know, when you have siblings, you know, you hope that they, you know, love each other and that get along, and you feel like they do, but to hear it, you know, out of their mouths from their perspective, you know, with the things that they saw growing up and how they relate to their siblings. I really enjoyed that. And homeschooling. You know, you always go, did our kids really appreciate, you know, being homeschooled, or were they upset about it? Do they wish they hadn't been homeschooled? That kind of thing. So to hear the other side, you know, to hear like, yeah, it was okay. We did a good job. It's all right. So but those were my favorite episodes as well.
That's fair. Dad, did you have one that you stood out to you?
I think the one and it's kind of like Mom said, they kind of run together, right? So probably one of the ones that stuck out to me was I enjoyed the one on the with the circus animals.
Yes.
I guess because that's been you know, over the course of our life where we've had one and we've had different interactions and things that you know, that seeing how people have, you know, abused that privilege and different things in our society for their own personal advantage, and knowing somebody that really needed it and what the difference is, and just kind of, you know, living our side of the life with the, you know, with disabilities and the things in our family, that I enjoyed that one.
It's good. Yeah, you were very, very passionate about that one as well.
I read that one and I was just like,
yeah.
Extreme exhale.
Do you have a favorite episode? Is it different than everyone else's, or is it the same?
It's probably different. I like the Reddit stories sometimes, and they frustrate me. One specific one, it was like a boyfriend-girlfriend. The boyfriend was moving away, or the girlfriend was moving away, and there was a cat or a dog. And it was very upfront, I'm not going to move without the animal. And then the boyfriend was like, just leave the animal. And they broke apart. That just like, it was just a lot of tension within that story. So I actually enjoyed that story. Yeah.
I love it. Just like a lot of, I think it's interesting from the moms, it was like a specific episodes in the bit, and from the dads, it's like this story.
This specific story got me angry.
But no, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, let's get into some of the more like actual homeschool specific questions. So I'm going to direct this one at you, Mom. So why did you choose to homeschool? And obviously, Dad, you can help as well. But
actually, I would like Dad to answer that one first, just because it's an opportunity you have, that because you weren't there to homeschool all the time, but we had we made this decision together.
Yeah. I don't know where it originally started, but when we were a young married couple, we had some, I guess you could say, older couples that were in our life that we had been introduced to through our church, and we really liked their children and how they behaved and just kind of what they were. And they were different ages, probably from 10 to 11 down to 2 or 3. I think there were four of them, and it was just one of the families that we got to know over time and really liked what their family was about. And not only, at the time we were all Christians, and it wasn't necessarily that level of shall we say, commonality. It was okay, the next level of what we saw and what they were doing as a family and what they stood for, and kind of just taking those convictions to the next level. And that kind of attracted both of us. We didn't have any kids, of course, at that time, and it was kind of like, well, what have they done? What are they doing different? And that probably goes back to some of the things that we were fortunate enough to be blessed with in our early marriage, that people we were able to associate with through our church that helped pour into us or give us opportunities to learn things along the way that kind of built our foundation for what we didn't know was to come with life. And so I think that's kind of where it all started, if I remember correctly.
Well, I think it's really cool because there are moments too, like now as an adult, or like where people will make a comment on like work ethic, or people make on like why, like what is, and then I make a comment about being homeschooled, like, oh, but like it starts as and it's rarely ever that I have it in like a condescending way or anything like that. They're like, oh, that's why you're different, but like in a good way, because like you were kind of saying it, like that separation. And I've even seen that in my own life in comparison to other kids our own age.
It is amazing over the years how the perception of homeschooling has changed, right? Mm-hmm. It went from, because, we'll have been married 35 years next year, and just where it was at that point in life of what people's perception of was homeschoolers, of it was more sheltering and more of, trying to protect and do different things, and that you were going to not get the benefits of things. And now it's come full circle that, homeschoolers seem to be much more prepared for the world that's out there and have a firmer foundation, and in the business world or in the social world, and so many places are excelling because they had that foundation, so much different than the quote public school system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll throw that over to my parents over here as well. Why did you start homeschooling?
It was actually your dad's idea. At first. We did know other homeschoolers from a church that we had attended. So that's what kind of put the idea in our heads. But we did want to really instill some Christian values. And, I have a huge respect for education. Both of us have degrees in education. So it wasn't that we didn't like, the teachers or, public schooling in general. I was really wanting you all to be able to speak up and to know who you were and to be confident in that before we put you out into the world. And honestly, it wasn't teachers, it was other parents and other kids. We taught for a short while in the public school system, and we're like, teachers are fine, but you can't be on the playground with your kids, when things are happening, or other parents say things or do things, and you can't be there for that, and you don't want your 6-year-old to have to stand up for themselves. And honestly, I'll just say this for Philip. Philip was very strong-willed and passionate about things being right, and people being, if someone does something wrong, they need to be punished correctly. And if we didn't punish them correctly, Philip would take it upon himself to mete out whatever punishment was necessary. And I just kept thinking, I'm going to be at this school like every week. I'm gonna have to bring him home, so we might as well just keep him home, because it'll be easier that way.
Oh, that's fair. Awesome. So one of the biggest reasons why you decided to homeschool was because of me. That makes sense. Okay, that's fair.
Well, I totally get where you're coming, because I'm actively pursuing my degree in education with the hope of like teaching in middle school and high school, and I work with kids at the after school program where I work at. And you're so right in the sense of like, you can only have so much control and involvement when you're around all these other people and around all these other influences. And even though like the place that I work at is phenomenal, and the people and like the woman who owns it, she is phenomenal and has such strong morals and values, and the staff are all the same, there's only so much you can control. And there's only so much that, like, even as all of us vigilantly looking out to make sure that, you know, bad things don't happen and that kids are safe, and that we can't be everywhere all at once and have eyes on every single person. So kind of that direct involvement, I think, is a really cool aspect of being homeschooled and of homeschooling.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we had, when people would ask us, one of the things that we would say is, you know, our goal was, you know, as our children, we wanted to be the biggest influence, right? And how do you do that but time? Yeah. So, you know, that was a comparison from public school versus or even, you know, even private school or schooling outside of the home, is that you're away for 8 to 10 hours a day. Yeah. And, you know, that was one of the things that we wanted to be, that influence, right?
This is just more of a fun one, like the actual practical application of teaching. So which subject did you hate teaching the most? And I'll put that up as whoever wants to take that first.
I'll go for it.
I bet I can guess.
Very obvious in my mind. I did not care to teach grammar. That was a very hard subject, and what was kind of funny about that, I'm also an educator. My first year of teaching, I taught 6th grade, and my subject I had was grammar and English, and it's like, oh wow. So I learned a lot, but that was still, I just didn't care for the structure of the grammar part of it, so I always had to learn as much as y'all did as you were learning.
Yeah, I relate to that completely, so that's where I get it from. That's good to know. And I'm also actively pursuing an English degree because I'm insane, but also I'm more excited for the literature aspect of it and less about the structural grammar part of it. Just myself. But.
It was the same one or is it a different one?
Math was our subject. Yeah, because I'm terrible at math. I always have been. Awful. And you helped a little bit, but then, you know, he was working, so it kind of fell to me. And I am so sorry. Your math skills. Wow.
My math skills are pretty good still.
That's not because of me.
I do remember many times where it was like, Mom was like, I do not know this one. I am so sorry. Call your father in. And then Daddy would sit there with me and he'd just be like, okay, what is this? What is this? What is this? I can even imagine at times she's just looking at me like, how much do you know?
Your auntie, so I don't know how to do this problem. Yeah, I know it's 4th grade math. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get that sometimes where, like, I'm walking past the homework room or like the kids are working on, and one of the kids will just like grab me and be like, can you help me with this? And I look at it and I'm like, no.
No idea.
So sorry. If I had 30 minutes to sit down and like analyze it, sure, but just by looking at it, absolutely not.
Nope. No.
So I feel that completely.
So you answered that question. Will you actually use this in real life?
Yeah. No, you say that, like, obviously Dungeons and Dragons is a math game, but I have had to use, what is it, the triangle formula, the Pythagorean theorem. I had to use the Pythagorean theorem in Dungeons and Dragons because someone wanted to fly up or fly down into the earth and do something, and I had to figure out the distance they would need to move and if their character could do that. And I used it and I was like, how dare you make me use math in a real setting?
I mean, in the stuff that I usually do, I do actually use math quite often, which is kind of frustrating for me. It's just like different. For media stuff, you got to know like the sizes of the frames and how it fits into what it's supposed to be and how you can like export it out properly. Yeah. So I do use math quite often, even trigonometry when I'm trying to find exactly the center points of whatever the frame is supposed to be and like measure it out. So it is quite helpful. And I will say, you guys did a great job. Yes. I know math concepts quite well. I can do math. So.
Very good. Okay. Well, good.
Yep. I have a relatively decent handle on the English language.
Yeah.
You're a pretty good writer.
And thank the Lord there's Grammarly. That there are services in place to help me figure those things out. I finally figured out how to use a semicolon, and that was just my one goal in life, was to figure out how to effectively use a semicolon. So.
I think I figured it out. I do have a question, though. What surprised you the most about homeschooling? I'll go over to my father over here.
Wow. What surprised us the most about homeschooling? Curriculum. Just, I guess, going into it not thinking we had to really grasp what are we going to teach. And since we're not a public school, what does that look like? So when we're starting out, just how do we get this together? And I think that was surprising. And also when we went to some of the homeschooling conferences, we saw that there were so many more people that were like us but different. You know, like be Mormon. There were people dressed in Amish, but they were all had this same thought of family. And so just trying to figure out, and I think that the challenging part was, okay, even with math, which one are we going to use? Are we going to use Singapore math? Are we going to use public school math? Are we going to unschool? Are we just going to let y'all do your just go for it? So that was just challenging. What are we going to? And we had the ability to change over, to switch. And then with that, there's an economic part. Okay, you have to purchase a lot of these things, or you have to know someone who has these things to pass down to you. And that was a challenging. So that was surprised that there is a lot of money. And I think another part was that it's like, okay, when you go to public school, a lot of this is provided. Why don't I get my tax money back to put into the homeschooling because you're in the house? So those are some surprising.
Good news is Florida is kind of doing that actually, like especially now. Yes, now. They didn't before, but now they are. There's a lot of like reimbursement programs and things like that for scholarships and things like that. So a lot of the kids that do like the Taekwondo part, the Taekwondo that we're at, they get to use it as a PE write-off. So all of their tuition and equipment and everything is reimbursed to them, which is awesome.
We look at some of the things they can get now and go, wow. That would have been so nice. Money towards curriculum. Wow.
It is. Yes.
This is expensive.
I think that's one thing that's changed a lot in homeschooling is the fact that, you know, it has become, I hate to use the word mainstream, but it has become more acceptable because of the results of the student, shall we say. And you do see different people groups, right? That, you know, at one time it was you were kind of with those that had like-minded, both maybe it's religious, maybe it's, you know, upbringing or whatever the case may be. But now you see there's much more across multiple communities and people groups that people are homeschooling. And I think it's driven by both the results and
what they talked about as well is it was really strange when we went over to like the large groups of homeschoolers and are like testing things, because they were all from like different groups and different types and stuff like that. But honestly, we were very similar in the way that we worked. Like even the friends that we met along there, it's like you could be from any part of the country, and if you're homeschooled, they are very similar. Not to say they're all the same, but it's usually a kind of very primary idea of why you're homeschooling, and so then the parents usually have the similar way of kind of training them up. You still have a very similar work ethic. You still have a very similar way of thinking about how the world works. So.
Well, I think it's funny too, because even like there's just that sense of camaraderie of like you're part of something that was unique and it's part of something that is special and not mainstream, kind of like you were talking about, especially back in the day. But I think that's like even when like Philip and I first met, how we were able to click so quickly and become friends is because we're like, this is a commonality that we can build upon, and then just like finding the interests and the things like that we can continue to build on was really, really cool. So I do think it's definitely one of those things that's really awesome. Follow-up question, and this is more of a little bit on the harder side. Was there ever a moment that you wanted to quit homeschooling? And if there was, what kept you going? So I'm going to put this on up the air if there's anyone that wants to take the lead on this one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wanted to quit so many times. I know Philip was like, yeah, Mom quit like every day.
I did not.
But they're just really, really difficult moments. And I'm sure the same thing happens in public school. You know, kids don't want to, you know, they're acting out or they don't want to do their work today or whatever. And same things happens in homeschooling, right? But it's your kid, you know, and they're sitting there. You can't send them to the principal's office. You can't send them anywhere. They're with you. And so when they don't want to do something, you know, it gets really, really frustrating. And I'm sure Philip remembers many, many times where I was like, I just quit. You guys just, one day I think I was like, here are the books. Here's your curriculum. I'm gone. And I just went outside and just stomped outside. Educate yourselves, you know. whatever. And I'm sure this happened on more than one occasion, which, I kind of feel bad about now, but it was frustrating. And that's one of the things I tell people when my kids were older, we did wind up putting them in public school. And when they have a paper, when Philip would give me a paper, and it would be a fairly decent paper that he had written, but I know that he spent all night playing video games, and he wrote this paper that was supposed to take 3 weeks to write. I know he wrote it in about an hour, right before it was due. So to have that knowledge that he didn't do his best work, even though it was decent, it wasn't his best work. And so that's really frustrating. It's something you wouldn't have to deal with in public school. They don't know that. They don't know how long he spent on it. So it was really frustrating. The thing that brought me back was just the feeling that I need to finish this out. These are my kids. Nobody else is going to teach them like I'm going to teach them. Nobody else is going to care about them like I do. And no, I'm not going to leave them to educate themselves. How crazy is that? They're your kids and you love them. And so you come back.
I mean, I would even say on that side too, it's like, when we're young, we're like, oh, what's going on? But as I got older too, I realized there's a lot that happens. You were kind of stuck in a room with 5 children, day in and day out, trying to teach them how to read and how to do math. Like, just by itself, being stuck in a room with a bunch of children is complicated. But having to, I am responsible for their whole educational experience based off of these books and helping things like that. That's a lot. So I appreciate it and I respect it. Now I'm like, we probably should have been a little bit nicer.
We were kids.
Yeah, we were kids.
What about you guys?
I definitely agree. There were many days I was just ready to throw in the towel. And thinking through the aspect of it being a team effect, yes, I had to do most of the teaching because Dad worked full time, but it was him that gave me the breaks when I was just burned out at the end of the day. You go out, you go step in your room for a while, go take a bath, go do whatever the things you need to do to strengthen yourself to keep going. And even like a homeschool group where we had a mom's night out that we would go to, and that would be very encouraging, just to, I'm not the only one that had such a rotten day, or these kids just aren't listening and all. And even the aspect of, like when I was teaching, I taught just second grade. Okay, they were all one level. I taught to one grade. So that was kind of challenging, just learning how to teach 4 kids at all different, this one schoolroom kind of aspect, and trying to make sure I'm meeting their needs. But yeah, there were days that, and actually, even you ended up going to school, to public school. And at one time, life had just gotten too hard, and I was concerned about your level where you were at, and you were getting behind. So we decided to let you go to school for, that was probably half a year, at second grade.
Yeah, second grade. Okay.
It was probably about half a year, just because of life where we were at, and that kind of helped you get over that hump. And then there was another time when life was hard, and both of y'all, you and Brandon, went to school so I could focus on the little ones. So it's a challenge, but it's worth it.
And I definitely can relate to that in terms of the, you're teaching a large group of people differing levels of things, because it's very similar. Obviously I'm not in the classrooms yet, but teaching martial arts it's I'm teaching students who are white belts all the way up to students who are red and brown belts. And it's very easy to get in that moment, like you're talking about, where you're focusing on the new people, that the older students or the students that are more experienced sometimes get neglected. And so I definitely can understand that difficulty balancing everything and how much of a challenge that can be, especially with it being not just an hour-long class, but 7-8 hours a day. Absolutely.
I think it was interesting. I was thinking about the fact of, when there were those frustrating times, or felt like, that it would be easier if, right? So when there were those times that, you and your brother were in public school, there was kind of a realization that this is as much work, if not more, than homeschooling, right? So whether it was a combination of, multiple children or other complications in life, it just got to be like, okay, we've lived this lifestyle of homeschooling and it gives us a lot of benefits. Now we're in the public school, and okay, you got to do it this way and you got to do it this way, and you're stuck in these rigid schedules and these things that, and it was definitely, I think, sometimes, there was a break that was needed for all the circumstances that were going on, but then when you all came back home, it was like, well, this is much more lifestyle. This is much more what we want, and the things that could go with it. So even though there was a perception that it was frustrating when there was a break, I was like, wait a second, that's really not as much work as this appears.
Well, and I think that's it's interesting for those who would not experience like homeschooling, the teaching, but I think like the people who like got to see the benefits of working from home. It's kind of like the same thing like during COVID and everything, where they're like, oh, I like so many jobs that it was realized that like we don't have to be in a corporate environment to do this job effectively. We can do so much of this from home. And obviously there are benefits to some industries and things like that being in that team setting, but then like the people who are like, oh, this is more I have more flexibility with my family, or I get to spend more time with the people that I care about, or things like that. I think it's similar in that regard.
And that idea of the time spent commuting.
Yes.
Right? So with work from home, or even with school, homeschooling, right?
Yes.
So the advantage of homeschooling, you don't have all that prep time that you may need to. You can roll out of bed and get started, as you've talked about before.
Yeah.
I guess in that same kind of way, my next question is like, you were talking about how it changes the way that you think about everything else. How did it affect the way that your relationship with your kids was, or your relationship with me, I guess, in that way, and the rest of my siblings?
I guess for me, it didn't shape it because I had nothing to compare. And it's not like I had another family that went to public school. So all I knew was homeschooling. All I knew is these are my kids in this setting. So there was no comparison. Y'all were kids and we wanted to raise you and we loved you, and it was a wonderful thing to be able to spend time with the kids at home. I miss that. When I think back, even working and trying to provide so that y'all could have that, I miss having y'all in the house. I miss hearing the laughter and the crying and the screaming and all of those things, and even the frustrating times that your mom went through. So when I look back, I'm like, man, those were some good years.
I can say with that too, I appreciated how much time I had with my parents. So like you two those over there, that I found a lot of other people who were in public school didn't have, for various reasons. If both their parents were working, or there was like complications that were there. Like I got to know you guys very well in a lot of ways, where it's like, I know what your favorite games are. I know like TV shows and music that you like to listen to the point that even people who are older than me are like, how old are you? Like you know like the music of Prince very well. Like, you know movies that are like, shouldn't you? That was way before your time. But it's because I got to spend a lot more time with my parents, so I appreciate it as well.
Well, you had something you were wanting to say, Dad?
Thinking about as thinking about that, back in having been the main sole provider and all of those things, right? Yeah, look back at some of those things I wish I couldn't had done differently, or would have been available. But then I also look at the other side, thinking of seeing how, understanding why, like my father enjoyed his grandchildren more so, because you don't have all those distractions and all those other commitments that, at some point in life that, you'll probably see me a little different because I get to be the grandfather and not the dad, right? Because I don't have all those other commitments and responsibilities. So, it's kind of, I think it's part of those phases of life we go through, and we appreciate. So something to look forward to along with it.
It definitely, I don't know, I feel like it was a good opportunity to build the relationships with my kids. I always looked at homeschooling too as y'all were my disciples, as in I wanted to pour all that God had taught me and I learned into you, and that was a great opportunity with homeschooling, and I really enjoyed cooking with you and the rest of the kids, and it was just there were awful times at times, but I think the good times really outweighed the bad times. 'Cause I really think when I look back, it's hard to think about anything that was really the days that were like hard, but I remember a lot of the good days and the time built together.
Well, that's good. And that's what I think is really the cool part about it, is it's like, for those who are homeschooled, they have that opportunity to build all of these memories that kids who are in public school are not going to be building with their parents, because either they're not with them, or they have to wait until the evenings or the weekends when people are tired or like trying to relax or get things done. And so it's like you don't get that time to just be a parent and child almost, and like that awesome moment, just because especially in our society we're so go, you've got to like do everything. It's cool to have that realization of like, we got to sit down and like hang out with our parents or hang out with my mom for hours at a day, which some people might not even get to do that until the weekend, which is a really cool thing in terms of that, like building that relationship and stuff. Yeah, that was good. Since we've talked a little bit about it, what advice would you have for people who wanted to homeschool, whether they are just starting out or they're wanting to, like are thinking about homeschooling? What advice would you give to them from a like, we've done this for multiple children and we've gone through it and we see where it is now today versus where it was when we first started?
I'll take it. I think it's a mindset that has to take place. You have to realize it is an investment, and my heart goes out to many of the parents that are both working and want to homeschool. That's tough. That's tough. And so for our family, there had to be provisions. God had to provide, and we had to decide that we weren't going to do some certain things. We really believed in not being debt free so that we could have that movement in place. Therefore, we chose certain places that other places people may not have chosen so that we could actually homeschool. And so I think the real challenge is, how are you going to do this? There is a cost to it, and is someone willing to stay home? Or can you even do that? Is it even plausible to do that? Once those things are put into place, I think it's a great opportunity. But I recognize it's tough for some people. We've got some people in our church that are trying to homeschool. They work full-time jobs. I just don't know how to do it. Yeah. I don't know how to do it. I know it took everything that we could, me being the provider, she being home, just to keep it going, and the encouragement. I think that question was, when did you want to just stop it? For me, it's like, no, we're in this now. We're going to finish this. We're going to finish this. There's just it just wasn't an option at that point. It's like, we're going to finish this.
You sacrifice so much at this point. Okay, we're going all the way.
We're going for it.
I think that's the biggest thing, is it is a commitment, and it's going to have its ups and downs like anything else, and it's going to take time, and it's going to be an investment. But I think the reality is you have to come to some conclusion that, you're not going to live like everybody else in the world, right, in your community. We went for a very, very long time. I don't think until the last couple of years, we never had a new car, right? It was always, we made decisions. We, had, thankfully God did bless us in many ways that, but what were vacations? Camping, more family time, things like that. What could we do? We went at odd times, or we did different things, or, how would we do things together? There were many times our date nights were put everybody to bed, and, we'll have dinner at 9:30 at night, and just the two of us, and enjoy that time together, versus going out and always on the go, and always, we didn't have these grand vacations and grand things, that didn't come till later in life.
Yeah.
Or if it was, we didn't go on another one for many, many years afterwards, as we saved up to go on for the next.
Or they were associated with other events.
Yes.
One of your potential questions, we did have homeschool vacations, right? We had things that were educational, and there were means to it, right? You could do both along the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I wanted to put something there too. That was, I know y'all were saying from the financial aspect, but I always, first off, don't put us up on a pedestal because we homeschool. No, everybody, it's a personal decision for each person, and everybody is different. And some people probably, I'm very introvert. I love home. I like being at the house, but not everybody is that way and all. But my encouragement is, if you think you're interested and your husband or you're on board, try it for a year. It's not like you're going to do you're not going to ruin them in a year. Try it for a year and see how it goes, and that's a really good time frame. Or try it for half a year, and see if it fits for your family. But I do think it's a commitment that you're making as you go into it. But so it can't hurt.
With so many things in marriage, the husband and wife have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be a team effort, because if it's just one or the other, it's going to have more challenges and be more difficult. So you definitely, with so many things in marriage, that be on the same page and working together towards that goal.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's one of those things too that like it really, and we even in our homeschool episode, I think we covered that story about like the one family member looking at the other family. I think it was the sister or sister-in-law, and it was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and they didn't go over anything. And the sister was very much bashing her even trying to homeschool. But my biggest comment to the original, the person who was wanting to homeschool was like, know what you're getting into. Yes, I think it's awesome that you want to do it and things like that, but don't just think that it's going to be you hanging out with your kid all day and it's going to be like daycare. It's not. It is like you are, like we talked about, taking that commitment to educate your kid and to your kids and all those things. So I think, like you said, was fantastic. Like if you're curious about it, try it for a year, because it's like, especially if they're younger, and it's like, yes, they're going to be more difficulty with self-control, I feel is the correct say, but the material is easier. The material is things that you're going to be more easily able to grasp, and it's not going to be something that you're going to have to spend all this time on prep. You can pull out the worksheets and be like, I know how to help you spell the word cat. I know how to do basic addition and subtraction.
Those beginning years are a little more fun,
yes.
Right? You have a lot more things that you're doing and learning.
Yeah.
It gets a little more regimented as you get older and have to start preparing for the rest of the world.
Pre-calc is a little bit more complicated in a group setting. But yeah, that's good. All right, you got another one?
Yeah, I think we should get into the more kind of like day by day stuff for homeschooling, just for everyone. So like,
zoom in.
Think back in your mind to when you were like actually in homeschool. So was there a subject that you learned alongside us while you were teaching it?
Oh, absolutely. I still, to this day, math, of course it was math, but I still remember teaching percentages, and I was horrible at percentages. You have taxes, like in North Carolina, it's 7% tax or something like that, and trying to figure out how to do that was always horrible for me. And so I think, I do apologize, with your older sister and you, I really still did not understand percentages. And I just kind of did what the book said. I was like, here, just read this. And yeah, that looks about right. Did you get the right answer? Okay, we're going to go with that. And then I think with your younger sister, we got a new curriculum, and they showed us the little boxes. It says, okay, take 100 and divide it into 10 boxes, and then you can do the percentages. And I think I called you all in. I was like, come here, everybody. Come here. Look at this. Look. You put the little boxes, and then you just color them in like this, and look, that's like 60%. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Because it was my first time really understanding percentages. And so, yes, definitely math was my subject that I learned with you guys.
So that's fair.
I think for me, it was the framework, learning it with, all I had was public school background. Mm-hmm. So going into it, it was like, we got to make this like public school. So that's when we were going to thrift shops, and I was getting desks, and we were putting desk in, and I was like, okay, it's got to start at 8 o'clock, and it's over at 4 p.m. What are you doing? You got to have lunchtime at certain time. And so just unlearning the structure of public school and just letting it flow. And that was really hard, because I'm very, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the way it's done. And so just learning that it could be more free. And your mom did a great job with that, just being able to flow. I'm like, okay, y'all, let's still in your night clothes. Now it come in, since I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be homeschooling you all. Like, what are you learning? So she was able to, but that was learning that you were learning in spite of the lack of public school structure, and you were thriving in that. And that was a growing for me to know that. So I learned that with you all.
And I think for our family, it was interesting, because I think you started with like the intent structure.
That was one of the questions.
Yes. You started with the intent structure, and then you moved away from it. Yes. And then we realized that was a terrible idea for our family, because we work really well on the structure. So we found that fun little medium between like regimented structure and, the flexibility of homeschooling. And I think that worked really, really well for us. But it was great getting to ride that wave for a little bit. Anything from your side on that question? Any subject you learned?
kind of embarrassing to say, but I really had I'm dyslexic, so growing up, spelling was very hard for me. Your sounding out words was very hard for me. So when I began teaching y'all to read, it was very phonics based and sound, all the sounds and things like that. I learned so much on how to sound words out when I was teaching you just the base. And I don't know why I never got it when I was in school, or I think they really taught sight word a lot and all, so I think I really missed that opportunity, and it really gave it. That was a hard thing I had to go through college and all that, to sounding words out and spelling words and all. So that was something I learned with y'all, and that was really one of my exciting to me to watch the light turn on for y'all when you would start reading. That was really exciting to see. So
That's cool. That's very cool. All right. Yeah. Well, let's go on to another one. So kind of in that same idea, we're talking about structure and things like that. So what was your favorite part of the day as a homeschool parent?
I'll start PE.
He was in charge of PE, so that was his favorite. Yes.
Former military, it was right down my line. So and that was the whole structure thing. It was like, okay, y'all gotta get up. And I remember getting them up. They got their clothes on, their shoes, and we went outside. And I took them through military drills. It was like, I was like, okay, let's run. And we played kickball.
Yes.
And my problem, I'm very competitive. And so we put them on teams, and as they got older, they got better. And then they were starting to win. It's like, you can't win. So PE was probably my favorite, probably not their favorite, but
my favorite was read aloud. I loved it. We always had a book. We did the Sunlight curriculum, SONLIGHT, and it was very literature based. And so we would every day we would have a read aloud, and it didn't matter what grade level they were at. Everybody, we all read the same book, so we'd all get together. And so there were a lot of really great books that we got to read. We were like, oh, Mom, what's the next part? And I was reading. And some of the books, honestly, I felt like, we had younger kids reading with older kids. So some of it was, I felt a little inappropriate or just something I didn't want to deal with. And so I would have to read ahead. So I would know when these things came up and kind of know where to, we're going to leave this part out, and we're not going to read that, and we're just going to go, there's a little censorship going on. So, but that was my favorite part. Everybody gathered around and reading aloud to the kids. But I do remember the PE was really intense. It was really hard for me not to intervene, like, honey, maybe we need to calm this down a little.
If it gives you any encouragement, we pretty much do the same thing to Philip now that he's taking Taekwondo. We have our cardio nights.
Yes, they do.
And he looks every time, because I'm a black belt. I'm an instructor. I don't have to do the cardio part.
Does not.
But I get to look at all of them while they're doing the cardio, and I'm like, you can run faster. That's not a good push-up. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that tests our friendship, is when I'm sitting there watching him do push-ups, and I'm just like, you can do that better.
10 push-ups, everyone. I do remember that. I think the funniest part is that it's like, my father, he's a very tall individual. You can't really tell, I don't think, for this frame there, but he's pretty tall. And then there's a bunch of small children. And as he's like jogging and doing all these things and push-ups, there's just a bunch of little kids trying to follow along with them, which is great. But it's all like, what's going on?
Oh, that's great. All right, what about for you, Mom? What was your favorite part?
I enjoyed since y'all were at different ages, there were several curriculums we used. I was teaching to all of you, but kind of, if you were older, then it was more challenging homework or assignments, that kind of thing. But one of the ones I really liked was called Story of the World. And it was, I loved it because it let each of you, like you enjoyed cooking, so you did several of the cooking projects. I'm trying to think of the word.
Is it the Montessori?
No. What is it? It hit each of your
interests or
in different sensories. Yeah. So I really enjoyed watching each of your creativity come out and have the freedom to do the things that you liked through that as you learned. So that was one of my favorite ones to do.
Right. Dad, I know you weren't there for much of it, but was there a favorite time?
I always like the science and technology, right?
I would say, yeah, you were always like, when something fun science came out, like, wasn't it you that got us the like the click circuit board, picking that up. So like we were playing around with like the lights and stuff like that and the fans. That was your. I remember you were all over that. I feel like it's fair we should talk about what our favorite part of the day was.
Should we talk about our favorite day?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Interestingly, I did love those, but one thing that was consistent throughout all of homeschooling before you were doing that is we would have the kind of like the morning devotional, quiet time, and then like we'd also do like a reading part of it. So you would leave, so like we read from the Jesus Freaks book, where it talked about all of like the martyrs and things like that throughout. Or was it the tip? Well, I know there's the movie The Tip of the Spear, but it was the book that movie was based on. I can't remember what the name of it. Yeah, the Jim Elliot. Like we got to like read all these really. I think it might be it. I don't remember specifically, but I remember getting like that was one of my favorite parts of the day, just because it was like this really cool. And again, I'm very much like a book reading that, like, so getting to sit down and listen to stories. Even like I remember when we were super young and like we would sit in the living room and you'd be on the couch with those like big flashcards with like the pictures on them, and things like, and I now do this as a D&D person where I like put pictures on the things and I'm like, all right, now I'm going to explain the scene for you.
That was probably one of my favorite times in the mornings of homeschooling too, as we would start out and
Similarly, I enjoyed the reading. I think it was one of the biggest things because it's the difference between you reading it by yourself and trying to figure out what these words are versus like actually hearing someone else read to you. And both of you read to us like from the Bible and from other books that were there so that we could kind of get a better idea of what was happening there. So I really did appreciate that. We got to hear a lot of great stories about all these other places across the world, like the one ticket to Calcutta and all things like that. I did also enjoy, secretly PE. I think it was nice because, well, I am not as competitive. I don't think I am.
You are.
I do like to try, and so it was more like when he was like, I'm gonna go over, I'm gonna run, I was like, I'm gonna keep up, I'm gonna keep going, I can do it. So I enjoyed that as well. So those are my two favorites that are there.
Yeah, it's good.
But going on with that as well, we were talking about our favorite times there. Did you have like a win moment in homeschooling where you're like, yes, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing what we do in homeschooling?
Reading. I was concerned. I was like, what if they can't read? That was huge for me. I'm an English major. I was like, what if we fail on this? And so your sister and you just starting out, and when you started to read and you were reading fluently, that was like, we got it. I was like, if we don't get anything else, they can read about math. You know, they can read how to do everything. If we can teach them how to read, they can learn everything else pretty much. And so that was a win when we was doing the road. What was that? The
Sing, Spell, Read, and Write.
Yeah, Sing, Spell, Read, and Write, and singing that song, and when they got it, and I was like, how are they gonna read from this? But when they started reading, I was like, wow, that was cool. That was a win. That was the win.
Yeah.
That was a win.
It's probably the same for me. Yeah.
Same for you?
That
Reading?
would be the same for me too. That was just it's like, okay. And it was just exciting to see the light turn on in them when they got it. And each of mine learned differently, and my youngest struggled so much. And I used the Sing, Spell, Read, and Write with him. It's like, oh, he finally got it. And all I was like, whoo. And another win was when they did dual enrollment.
Yeah,
and
that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay, well, you might have another one, but the writing part, is in homeschooling, well, I'm not an English major, so we did writing, but I never felt like I really pushed it a lot. So one of your English class they took, I was so worried that they weren't going to do well on their papers they had to write, and they both made A's, like, phew. I'm glad that they could read and it all worked out and they could.
We're just really good in like the topical stuff that they're like, we'll let the grammar slide. The actual writing is fantastic.
It's a great story. Don't worry about anything else.
That's what editors are for.
And that's where I was going to go with what I thought was when you were kind of getting into that dual enrollment and doing some of those outside of the homeschool, that's where it showed the foundation that you had, right? Because that was really, going out into the world to a certain degree and starting to show that you had these skills and you could apply them, and that you're going to be successful with it. So that was good because we knew you could do it, but you had to get out there and do it, right? And so you could, and each one in their ways, they started to transition, I guess, into the world. And I think that was kind of, to me, in general, one of the things I always felt like homeschooling somewhat prepared you more for real life in the way that you don't have somebody over you every day, making you do things, right? You have to have that fluidity in life. Do I want to do it today? Do I not want to do it? How do I want to do it? When do I want to do it? And, we each go through our seasons where we have to figure out how to motivate ourselves and do different things that, as an adult, you have those foundational skills that you're going to continue to build on, and starting to see those in life. So
I mean, even my parents, you both were saying, when you get to college, it's going to be so difficult. They're going to be so hard on you. It's going to be like absolutely terrible. You've got to prepare for this. This is the big thing. They're not going to be as nice as we are to you and doing these things. And then we got to college thinking that was what it was going to be. It's like, this is the world. I'm going to send in my first essay, and they're going to be like, F, you're worse than everyone else. And then we got it, and they're like, this is the greatest essay I've ever seen. How are you so eloquent in these ways? Your vocabulary is great. Like the ideas and the information you have, your historical grasp is fantastic. And I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, you guys still rag me about that all the time. And that didn't happen in college. That really happened when we sent you to middle college, which is high school on a college campus. And that was one of the things I would threaten them with all the time. If you were in public school, your teacher would not accept this kind of work. And then they got to public school, and everybody's like, this is fantastic. And I just, wow, okay.
That was how it was when I did dual enrollment. Then I went over to the state university where there was literally hundreds of students in my class, and then it did kind of shift into that we're not I don't want to hear excuses. I can't you're a number at this point in time, so I expect you to do it, or if you don't get it, you're done, that kind of thing. And so there's that difference. So I did get to experience that when it was when I was first taking my dual enrollment. It was at the local community college, and no class was more than 25-30 students, so very similar to the public school setting, and then go to the university.
Our dual enrollment is kind of probably what you were talking about. They were in high school getting to take college classes, and it went towards their college degree, so their credits.
But, all right.
And I do remember you saying when you went, this is easy. I'd rather do this than homeschool.
But yeah, you only have to go 3 hours a week in that school.
Oh my class.
Well, yeah, because I was the one who all of my classes were 2 days a week. I went to all 4 of them. Then I had 3 days of the week I had nothing I had to do. It was great. Just kidding. I had to do homework and other activities, but it's fine. But yeah, that's good. Well, we already kind of talked about the balance, balancing structure and freedom when we talked about the difference between homeschool. And so I think we can skip that question.
Absolutely.
But how did you handle the days when everything went off the rails? When everything went wrong, nothing went right? How did y'all handle it?
Everyone's
you reacted,
so
Mom. I feel like you
they're
like, do
we want to talk about that day when everything? I don't know if
Andrew,
everything.
Are you sure you want to talk about that day?
Well, it was really bad. We put one kid in the school. When Dad came in, it's like, you're talking to your mom like that, and you're going to school.
We're not gonna,
they told me not to use names.
Yes. I'm just making sure it's clear. It wasn't me.
And then there'd be, y'all are on your own. I'm going to my room, shutting the door, and taking a nap. This is not working today.
I would kick everybody outside. Just go outside. Just go play. Do whatever. I don't care what you do. Just go outside.
Go outside. Be there for a bit. Yeah.
So how did you come back from that time when you're ever off the rails? You're like, this day has not gone well, or you're just we're going to try again tomorrow, or what was the thought process there?
I was about to say, wait,
it's like, this is an investment. You can do it. Let go. Do I need to take you out? Do you need a break? Do you need a weekend away?
Take one of the kids out. What do
I mean, you do have the ability to reset, right? Pull everything away, and that's probably what we would do. Is the fact that kind of take a break. Not being in that You didn't have to be as rigid. Okay, if you got to take a break today because everything went to heck, okay, there's tomorrow, right? And you can do school on Saturday. You can do, there's different things, and you can do school during the summer because you have all the other flexibilities of everything else.
One of your kids pretended they were doing all of their school and wasn't doing all of their school and needed to catch up on it during the summer.
Yeah, I wonder who that was.
No idea. No idea who that might have been. Oops.
I think it's also, we took a lot of time. When we first started homeschooling, all we had was sing, spell, read, and write. And so after we got through that, we tried just looking on the internet and printing out worksheets and things, and that didn't work. And so that's when we bought the curriculum. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new world. And there's structure. It's telling me what to do. It's telling me what to say. But I think that's one of the great things about homeschooling. If this is not working, you can scrap it, immediately and do something different. We did so many different math programs because, I think we started one math program. I can't remember what it's called. I probably should not name it. Because we did it, and Philip and his older sister were on it, and they did great in it. I mean, they were going through, it was supposed to be a first grade curriculum. Within 6 months, they were into the second grade and going to third grade. But then in our state, they had to test. And they took the test and did not do very well at all. And I'm like, why? This is first grade math, and they're in the third grade in this book. And so it was a lot of mental math, but it would say, like at the top of the test, it said, do the sums. Well, they didn't know what a sum was. They just called it addition. So they had no idea what they were supposed to be doing. So I immediately scrapped that curriculum. Obviously, this math is not working, and got another curriculum that worked a lot better. So I do think that's one thing about homeschooling, is that you can say this is not working, or even for an individual child. It was great for your older brother or older sister, but for you, this is not your thing. And so you just throw that out and get something else. We tried structure for a while, and maybe it was too structured. So the next week, you don't structure it so much. And that's something that doesn't happen in public schools. They have curriculum and rules, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, and too, they're, in a public school, they've got everybody in the same grade. They're trying to teach the same, and it does give you, like I said, the variety of curriculum, and then also the ability to tailor it to the student, right? Your children the best. Who's more a visual learner? Who's more an audio? Who does better hands-on?
Learning styles. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah, learning styles. Yeah. Who does? You can do that customization or tailoring it so they learn. That's one thing you don't get in public schools. And that was probably kind of where you're talking about taking the test. I think that's probably one of it's gotten better over time, right, with technology and different things. But that was probably the biggest transition, I think, between not being in public school versus is that test taking, right? Unfortunately, for a long time, and it's probably still a lot of public schools gears around taking tests, right, and passing that test. And that's one thing, teaching the test to pass, right, so you did have to know all those skills around that, and that's one thing that you didn't have as much. I think it's gotten with having technology and trying to using some of those means for homeschooling. It's more parallel now, but there for a long time it wasn't, right? Because you did have a worksheet and you worked it out. You weren't bubbling in and having to read and do the same thing that you would, and that has definitely evolved over time. And because that was probably where I know one of the things that your mom had done was helping administer some of the standardized testing through our homeschool community. And that was things that parents would have to learn, is that your kids may be super smart, but they haven't learned how to take tests. So you don't see it on the test, and helping, it was one of the things you got to do, is kind of help them make that transition, because unfortunately that's the way the world was for so long, is you got to pass the test.
And now it's different, because they can actually go and get evaluated, and it's more of like a one-on-one process where you're learning where they're at and making sure that they're up to the expectations and standards, right?
Well, it was that way still when y'all were growing up too. It's like a homeschool evaluation instead of a test. So that can still happen today. I always encourage the testing, because when you got into college, you always had to take
the real
tests.
world had to take, or the outside
just
world.
the practice kind of it.
That's what I love about the degree I'm pursuing right now, because it's like I was just telling, because I just started my my history class, and I was mentally dreading having to memorize dates and names and all these things. I have no test. I looked at my syllabus. I have no tests. It's it's just applicable papers and research papers on these different subjects. And I'm just like, yes, because I hate tests.
I would add to that even to those, I know this is a homeschool kind of channel, but to those who are in public school, that I missed public school. I really did well in public school. And so I think there is a niche there. And I think people need to realize just because you're in the public school, you still can be homeschooling at night.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are. A lot of them are trying to reteach what was not taught or just didn't come across. And I respect those that are going through it. And I think when you go down this homeschooling path, it has to be a calling. You got to know this is what we're going to do for our family, and to be aware those who are in the public school system, they're there, and I think they're great teachers. We've got a teacher in our family. I was a teacher, she was a teacher. They're doing what they do, but it is an opportunity, I think, a blessing to be able to homeschool. But I salute those who are in the public school and are having to navigate all the different personalities. And again, I did very well in public school. I remember my teachers and testings. Tests were no big deal for me. I was able to just go through it. But it is an opportunity to be able to do this and spend time. So I think it has to be more than a schooling thing, more of a connection thing that you see for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair.
Since we've already spoken about kind of how homeschool really worked and how you were comfortable or uncomfortable with some of those aspects in it, we're going to go towards the slightly darker side of homeschooling, which, at least from what I've seen and what we talked about in our homeschool episodes before, is people not believing in homeschool or thinking that it's good. So I guess the question is, were there people that did not agree with your choice in homeschooling, and what did you do to kind of convince them or to fight back against that?
Or how did you respond in regards to it?
Definitely family. Just because we come from an educational background to homeschool, which had never been done in our family, it was like, what are you doing to the kids? What are you? They're not going to be socially astute. They can't talk. They're not going to be able to do math. Introverts. They will never be successful in the world. Are you Jesus freaks? We know you're a Christian, but I mean, why are you going this far? It was real hurtful, and I think the biggest challenge, sometimes you don't know if you've done right until they get older. You're like, they could be right. What if they are, socially challenged? What if they don't succeed, and then they're like, I told you. And you have to be convicted. As we started, I think you just have to know that it's a calling for your family. This is what we're going to do, and just believe that it was right for your family. And we are able to see the fruits of that on this side. There's still some things I would like to see. I think for us, our biggest push for homeschooling was that y'all would love Jesus with your whole heart. Wesleyan kids, y'all would just focus in, and we love y'all. Y'all have been very successful, and are able to navigate a lot of things, but we're still like, okay, Lord, this was our goal. Our goal wasn't for them to be all around the world. Our goal was them to follow you with their whole heart, mind, soul, and strength. So
I'm trying to remember. I think there was definitely some skepticism, right? Because it was non-traditional. Trying to remember from my side of the family if we got the most, or if it was more from your side, or
There's definitely more family questions and wonderings.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some were comfortable because you had the credibility of being a teacher, right? So that was, it'll be okay. But I think there was, probably just again because we were doing something different. But I don't know that we had too much negativity. I think there was a lot of wait and see attitude a little bit and that kind of stuff. But I think it was, you kind of mentioned the socializing aspect of it, because it was always, that was the number one, and maybe it still is the number one thing that people believe, that you're not going to socialize, and it, we had it relayed to us in the beginning that putting a group of peers together is not socialization. Socialization comes from outside of your peer group, and what is public school or most traditional school do? They put the same peers together, versus, the socialization of, being able to talk to an adult, talk to a child, talk to different people outside of your natural peer group, that's true socialization. And I think that homeschool actually excels in that more so than in a traditional school setting, because you are interacting with multiple peer groups or multiple people outside of your traditional comfort zone, I guess you could say, where you don't in some of the traditional school settings. So I think that was probably the biggest thing, was socialization, that they're not going to be able to socialize. Well, I think that's never been an issue by any stretch of the imagination.
Even when we were going through Reddit and looking at a bunch of those stories, it was mostly like people going, oh, don't homeschool your kids because they will not be able to socialize with others. Whether it was people who thought they knew what homeschooling was or had no idea, that was the big one across it. Thankfully, I don't think I've ever, as far as I can remember, gotten made fun of for being homeschooled. It was mostly, I knew stories of other people who were like, oh, homeschoolers are weird, they're strange, they're independent in this weird kind of way where they can't talk to people, or they're very, very specific on these little tiny things. And so whenever I kind of got out of, let's say, the homeschool bubble of that kind of way and start talking to other individuals, it's like, you really have no idea what happened there. And they were often surprised. And it's like, I was homeschooled for most of my life. I was homeschooled in that way. And they're like, really? But you can talk to people. You're not weird. You understand what TV shows are.
First of all, I am weird. I'm just not showing you my weirdness.
We can shield it.
I think you, the two of you played off the title of your podcast, Sheltered.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception that because you choose to homeschool, that you are sheltering. No, you are looking to filter and be the biggest influence. You're not sheltering, right? If anything else, you're equipping to be prepared to work in the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Because you're equipping. You're not just throwing you out there and say, figure it out.
Yes. Well, we and I wanted to kind of circle back, that I think was really interesting that Philip's dad was talking about regarding that, or even you were kind of talking about the wait and see moment. I remember, obviously I'm not in the teaching aspect, I'm not in that, but when we took over the Taekwondo school from the former grandmaster who was running it, and it kind of became ours, I remember having a very similar feeling of I just became a black belt. I had never taken full instructional leadership over this. I'm like, is this going to fail? We had, no one had directly said, hey, this is going to fail. We were actually relatively well equipped, but there was clearly this underlying, we'll wait and see what happens. And I remember the first time that one of our students got to black belt testing and became a black belt, one of my younger kids, and getting to see him test, and then hearing from the other grandmasters and the other instructors who are like, this is excellent. We love seeing what we're seeing here, and we love seeing in that moment of fulfillment that only comes when you're relying on faith, and you're doing I feel that I believe this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna do it, but I don't know how it's gonna look. And I think that's very interesting parallel to that same aspect of it.
I was thinking too with parenting, homeschooling, marriage. I mean, there's so many different resources out there, and say, do it this way, go this way. It's you have to figure out what you want and what's best for your family, between praying about it and asking God what's the best, and then going for it. Because if you let the worldview kind of come in, it's going to change every week.
Absolutely.
And also I think that was something we parented a little different, that kind of went along with our homeschooling, and I think there were more jokes sometimes about that, of what we'd let them watch, what we wouldn't let them watch, just the moral values that we tried to hold around those aspects that were kind of jokes growing up, with different situations and all. So
and I think it is you're talking about what the ultimate goal was. You wanted your children to carry on your values and what you felt was important, and instilling that relationship with Christ, and that in there, that part of it is that evolution of understanding that where we started as parents, we started developing our convictions, and they became our beliefs, and they became convictions because we'd sacrificed to make them important, and do the things that we needed to fulfill them. And I think that's what that'll be the ultimate success in our children as they develop those convictions, and are continuing to who would have thought they would be doing a podcast talking about how much they how much homeschooling set them up for success or made them who they are. That fact that, they're going to continue to develop those convictions, and they're going to show them in their life as they continue to grow and become, future adults and parents and well, they're already adults, but as far as continue to mature, because we've done it as adults, and we over our we can look back and say in our 35-year marriage and things that were important to us then may not be now, but also things that maybe were ideas and now are foundation, all things that made us who we are. And that came over time, and as we set them up with homeschooling as that foundation, and those convictions will.
I'm going to just say that unfortunately we can't use anything that you just said because you used the word evolution in there, and we don't talk about evolution.
What? I was like, I didn't know that. Let me write that down. It's like, okay. I was like, huh?
I would say that was evolving, not evolution. There's a difference there. It's like most things in the world, they started out okay, but they've been, they've been morphed into meaning something else.
Conversation with you guys about Pokemon, and it was not the same thing. So.
Oh yes.
Anyways, that was sorry. I just wanted to have fun with that. I had that. I was like, I almost wanted to interrupt you. I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait.
No, you gotta wait, man.
Let it cook.
Yeah, we will have to bring up all the things, maybe in a later episode or something like that, where we're like, okay, how many things have we done before that were just like homeschool parents that you're just like, this is, it could be religious parents, the dirt devil type thing with the tape over top of it.
Yeah,
Stuff
we did
like
that.
where it's like, there's a whole list of things where we're just
D&D.
Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter, all the things.
So many things.
That could be an episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
I want to go to another question that I think we missed, but I think it's really important because it does circle back into, I say circle back a lot now, circle into what we were talking about regarding, defending and responding to it. But like, what role did community or a lack of it kind of play in your homeschool journey? Now, like, homeschool groups or moms groups or your church or things like that, how did that play into it?
I think it played a huge role, which was one of the reasons why we didn't worry as much about socialization, because they were in church and, they had youth group and choir and all the other things that go with church. So we knew that they were not isolated by any stretch of the imagination. They had their friends at church, they had cousins, we were out and about, and for a long time it was hard for us to find. We finally found the Homeschool Association in our area, and it took a minute because back in the day homeschool was not a big thing. We just kind of decided to do it. We actually we'd heard about homeschooling when we lived in another city, and so then when we moved, we didn't know anybody who homeschooled where we were. So to find the Homeschool Association, first of all, was kind of difficult, and we found them, and then that's where we did all our testing, and they were okay. We put them in a couple of classes. I don't know if you remember them at all. But then we found there's like a little city next to us, which was much more organized. I won't say it was bigger, but it was organized, but it was very relaxed. And they had all kinds of courses, all kinds of things that the kids could do. So we did that for a while, and I think that really helped. How do I say this nicely? The first one we were at was still felt very exclusive. That they, it was kind of like, you could tell it was some moms that got together and they decided to start a little association. So it wasn't like newcomers were really welcomed in, and we always kind of felt like outsiders. But the second one we joined was like, yeah, everybody come, here we are, we're doing homeschool, you guys want to come? Do you have can you teach us something? It was just a lot more welcoming, and so that was great. And we did that for a couple of years. Unfortunately, they were a 45-minute drive to begin with, and then they moved, so they were like an hour and a half drive, and so we just got to a point where we just could not do it. But that second one especially was really, really great with socialization and even courses that I didn't feel comfortable teaching, like biology. They offered it through the Homeschool Association.
That's where I first dissected a frog, was in that one, because you were like, I'm not going to have a dissected frog on my dining room table. I'm sorry.
Wasn't it through our homeschool group where we went to like an aquarium and I got to dissect a squid? Was that through our homeschool?
It was, and kind of a little different than on your associate. I tended to want to find a homeschool group that just did field trips and things like that, and not actually go and do classes and all. So our homeschool group that we did field trips, and that was one of the field trips we took, which that's one of my most favorite aquariums, the Tampa Bay one, and yes, y'all did an experiment of the squid.
I got to write my name with a little ink quill from the was it the squid or the octopus? I think it's squid. It was squid. Yeah, squid. That was kind of cool. That was cool.
Yeah. So that's how that y'all built relationships through the field trips and with all your different ages and things like that. So that was what we. And then yes, church. I mean, we were at church all the time. You had siblings that were different ages, cousins. It was just, there was never an issue of socialization at all.
And then also you're taking advantage of other things that are available in the community. Period. Right now, even outside of homeschooling. So whether you were doing sports, we're younger age trying, some of the, soccer, baseball, or some of the different things that were done, or with our daughter, dance, or. You did gymnastics. So there were those other normal...
Yes, because he wasn't the PE coach.
Yeah.
We had to go find PE.
Yeah. So, those other extracurricular activities that are available, regardless of what schooling choice you're doing, we look for those opportunities as well, and then probably even took more advantage of, we're going to SeaWorld. What are the other things that we can do that are educational along with it, right? Not just go for the entertainment.
And I think for us too, just you talking, when we started out, there were cultural challenges with socialization. So our church was a big place that we could socialize. But when we reached out, there just weren't a lot of African Americans that were homeschooling. I remember we were trying to do other things in PE, and you remember the soccer, and we had put them in the homeschooling association. There were no African Americans, and we could tell Philip was like, they just won't recognize me. And because they didn't understand, or he was different, a different color. And I didn't realize that. Until we were well in it. There were no people that, was our skin color. And we had to reach, and they just didn't understand the cultural background. We were understanding their culture. And I think that was a challenge. It was a blessing. Over the years, things have really grown in that, but it was a big challenge. And I would say that those who are considering homeschool, that you realize there can be some cultural challenges that you're going to have to reach out, especially if there's not many people that are doing it that that was a big one.
I know for us, libraries. We used our library a lot, and there are all kinds of library programs. You have the story time, and then you had there was knitting and volunteers. But there were all kinds of things at the library, to the point where all the librarians knew our kids by name. They would pick out books for them. They volunteered there, so library was a big, huge thing for our kids.
And not being active homeschoolers at the moment, I'm sure there are some resources like that are out there as times have changed, right? Libraries aren't quite the central point that they were. They're still available and they're still out there, but
there's still things that happen. I just recently, like within the last couple months, went and got like a library card over where I live, and when I went there, like it literally had it was like probably like a week every week they had like multiple activities that are still at the library, so it's still things. But
it's funny you say that, because one of the gentlemen that I work with had mentioned that one of the libraries in Central Florida, we're currently digitizing some of our historical videos and stuff like that, and he was telling me that this one library has all that equipment and you can go in and do it and use it as part of the library. I'm like, never would have thought about that. So I think one of the keys being a homeschool parent is figuring out or finding all those resources that are available.
Yeah. Mhm.
Some are through that homeschool group. Other things are just things that are available in your community that a lot of people may or may not be taking advantage of.
then you have to
because they're stuck in their groove, right? Yeah. That hey, these resources are out there.
Well, and that's just being a good educator or person that's like teaching in general, is that curiosity of like, what is available? What can I do? You know, if you're going into this, you need to be willing to be curious. Like we were talking about, like the subject. What subjects am I not familiar with? What am I willing to learn? Because you can't just ignore something. You have to still learn it and utilize it. Yeah. I'm going to pivot to the next question, and it's one from our extras, but we talked about a little bit of, you know, going to SeaWorld, and, you know, that was a us thing. So it was, what was it?
Field trip was secretly just for you?
Well, kind of, yeah. Yeah, so that's where it was at. Yeah. Yeah, but it was like which field trip was secretly for you, or whether it was like, this is an opportunity for us to relax, or was it really like, I just want to go to the theme park and it's going to be a lesson on physics kind of day? You know, what was one of those, you know, field trips that kind of was there?
When we went across country, we took a cross country trip, and it was something I'd always wanted to do with the family, and because we were homeschooled, we could do that. But I didn't realize the challenges of that. So we had a MPV, a little van, set 7-8 people with 5 kids, and we started out, and just didn't realize. But it was a journey. It was a journey, and I wanted to go across to California. I wanted to tent across to California. You did. And we were going to get hotels back, but we ended up setting up tents the whole way there and the whole way back. And so that was a journey that was a blessing for me. I have a daughter who is in fashion. She hated it. She did it, traumatized over that because the kids were growing, and we were in this little minivan. It was hot. I remember when we started out, South Carolina, and we were like sleeping in the van.
Tennessee.
It was in Tennessee, and legs were everywhere and all that. And I was blessed. It was a journey. It was really a journey for me. But I kind of pushed them on that. I pushed the edge for everybody on that. Like, we're gonna make it. We're going there, and we're gonna get back. That was our big field trip.
Wow.
It happened.
I think every trip we took, it was like, because where we lived, there was an attendance thing. You had to have a certain number of days. And you had to send it to the central office, this checked attendance record that you did school this day. So anytime we went anywhere, we called it a school day. It was a school day. We saw something, we looked outside and looked at the grass, school day. So everywhere we went, everywhere we did, everything we did, we decided it was educational.
I know, we, having 2 sons with special needs, we had to do a lot of trips and travels and things like that. So one of my favorites that I wanted to make sure we went to was a creation museum up in Kentucky. And whether y'all wanted to go or not, I wanted to go. So it was right up there with the Ark too, but you didn't.
I haven't gotten to go to the Ark.
Your brothers got
You
to go.
were a little older.
Yeah. So, but I enjoyed most of the field trips we went on. I enjoyed watching your excitement and like your eyes being open, like, wow, you know, kind of that kind of thing too. But we always tried to
pull me back because I was trying to go too far ahead, and then you're like, no, we're slowing back.
No, Andrew.
I already looked at the display. I'm ready for the next one.
I remember on one of our trips, we let each of the kids kind of pick what they wanted to do.
I remember that one
on their trip,
Tennessee,
and they had
right?
they had to research it and all that, and that was all part of your education, you know, with that part of it too. And also, and you picked a
ropes course. Solo ropes course because no one else wanted to do it with me. But it was right after a cave, so we were like down in the caves, and then I went up in the trees. It was great.
In a later episode, I'll have to tell you my experience with the ropes course. That'll be coming up, so keep watching.
I'm very intrigued. Well, yes, we'll have to talk about that. But yeah, no, that's great. I think it's one of those things too that like that's another benefit of homeschooling is it's like you're not stuck in that structured routine. Like you were talking about, like you can do school on the weekends, you can take trips, you could like that. Like, yes, I can understand the challenges of doing a cross-country road trip. That could be very exciting, but that is not something that someone can do if they're required to be in the public school system. Like that is a freedom that only someone who is being homeschooled or that is homeschooling would give access to.
Yeah, and the big way I think what everyone's kind of talked about is it is an individualized kind of format and style. Well, a lot of stuff is similar, right, across all kind of different homeschooling groups. No homeschool kind of path is the same. Some people go in different directions. Maybe you only homeschool for like 3 or 4 years and then the rest is going over to public school, or maybe you go over to a middle college. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right or anything like that. It's all specialized.
And it can be per student too, right? It's not even per school, for the family. It can be different for students, for the student based on where they're at and what their interests are and what they're.
Yeah.
We have a friend did this years ago that decided to homeschool and then chose to put their kids back in public school. And one thing he said was it helped him to understand that your child's education is your responsibility. Whether you choose to homeschool or public school, if your child is not learning in the environment that they're in, it is your responsibility to make sure they learn, however that may look, or whatever you need to do to make sure that happens. It is the parents' responsibility to educate their kids.
Absolutely. And I think that's like one of the things that I think I've even talked about it on an episode, but that's what I think separates the okay parents from the great parents, are the ones who are willing to get in there, who are willing to help them, whether it's a homeschooling aspect and they teach them everything, or hey, that's not what our thing is, but I'm going to be home tonight and I'm going to sit down there and work with your homework. We're going to talk about your day. It's that it takes work. It's not something that's just going to happen, and that you can tell the people, and especially with someone who works with kids, I can tell the people whose parents are involved and who are actively working with them versus the parents who are, the school will figure it out, or this is why this person's here for homework. I'll pick you up. That involvement, though.
Well, and makes me think back to one of your questions, or maybe it was just conversation we had about, the idea of y'all doing the podcast. And one of the things that, crossed my mind, or as I've heard you talk about things throughout the different shows, was the fact of there's some things that we did very intentionally as parents to invest in you, and then to hear it come back out of you. And you may not realize at this point in life what it took to do that, but at some point you may, or you will, or you'll understand in different ways. But to hear that come back, in knowing the investment and the time and the sacrifice, or whatever, all the things that were intentional to make that a reality.
Well, I guess we talked about the experience of homeschooling. We talked about what it was like to kind of have that negativity and also the positivity that comes along with it. So, as far as I am aware, you have finished your homeschool process so far. So what did graduation, like that finale, look like for homeschooling for you? Is it like you're like, you're done, get out of here, you're finished? Did you have like a big thing? What was like that big final moment, you think, across there, or what did that feel like?
I think for us, college, the culmination of all 5 of you for graduating from college. That whole transition. I guess our short-term goals were to read.
Yes, that was the main goal.
Once we got reading, it was like everything else was just add-on. It was bonus. It was bonus at that point. That you could read fluently. I was like, everything else is good. And I think the next goal was, okay, how do we get them on the path to college? And so the transition from homeschooling to middle school, all the paperwork we had to go through, and then you testing, and you all are like really smart. So that was a plus. We graduate high school, and so that was a culmination of the whole homeschooling thing. I think we did have that little homeschooling graduation thing, but the culmination was you were accepted because you passed and you graduated and you have a diploma. And then when you were able to get into college with your homeschooling experience and your middle college experience, and you were accepted in college and you excelled, and you passed the test. And then when you finally got a degree from college, I was like, we're done. Check.
Yeah, I remember, because I guess for me, the homeschooling journey for each of you would ended when you all went to the middle college. All 5 of you went to middle college, and I remember, I'm starting to cry just thinking about it. I remember when my first child left to go to middle college. It was 11th grade, and we had this habit. I would write everybody's assignments on the board, and I would draw these little lines. Would have 5 lines on the board, and each child knew that this was your section, this is your section. All your homework for the day is written out. And I remember having to erase that 5th one, and I just boohooed.
You guys
I just boohooed. I was like, you know what? School's canceled. I cannot do this today. And I remember just boohooing. And I think with every child, when Philip left to go to middle college, and I erased that little line until the last child, and it was just his work. The board was all his. And just to write that down was just really, really hard. But, and it was hard, but they came home at the end of the day. So then you get the feeling of a public school, family where the kids are not gone. They're not in college, so they're not gone forever. And even when they went to college, they went to the college, which was literally down the street. So they were coming home. So even though it was really sad to do that part, to see them, it's almost like, oh my gosh, my kids are gone. And then they show up at the door like, Mom, where's dinner? And they're like, oh, you're still here. So the relationship changes. You're not a homeschooling mom anymore, but you're still a mom. Your kid is not gone. Your kid is here, and you're still their mom. You're always going to be their mom. And so that was a bittersweet experience.
Yeah, I know our 4. They graduated through our homeschool convention group, so it was a really big graduation ceremony. But thinking about each of those that each 4 graduated, I just kept thinking about the verse, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant," because it was hard work, but it was so rewarding to get to the other end and watch them, achieve that milestone in it. And there was even a bigger aspect of it with my oldest son and my youngest son that had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. That we were told when they were diagnosed that they wouldn't live past 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to see them reach that achievement and that accomplishment and that milestone, that was a huge thing, and not to take away from the middle kids, because it was just as important to them too. But it was just a very satisfying feeling of seeing all 4 of them finish what we started.
So, anything from you, Dad? No.
You're like, I don't want to cry. Thank you, but no thank you.
Well, I think that's about everything.
That is it. Yes. I mean, homeschooling, as we kind of talked about, there's a lot that goes on in it. It's not like the easiest thing in the entire world. If anyone tells you that homeschooling is easy, do not listen to them. They are absolutely lying to you. But hopefully what you kind of found in this episode is really rewarding. I mean, even when you have a child that might be more justice and truth oriented, to be able to actually teach them how to read and write and do those things. But it comes in different spectrums of styles and things like that, and you can tailor it to what your kid specifically wants. Once again, homeschooling is not for everyone. No. But if you're considering it, if you're really thinking about it, it's a good idea to just kind of look into those resources, look into what that looks like for your family, really think about, is this a good option for us? And hopefully through this episode, you've at least seen a little bit more of what that is. You have a better understanding. Maybe you're like, you know what, I can do it. Or maybe it taught you like, nope, that's not for me. That's for someone else. So I hope you like that. Yeah.
I was really excited for this. Like, honestly, when we originally pitched this episode, episode and doing it was like, okay, so we're gonna record from our home and we'll get our offices, and then I'll have my dad and mom in their office with the camera, and we'll get you guys in your office, and we'll figure out how to Zoom call this and do it. And then Philip was like, oh, they're gonna come in, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this live in person. Oh, that's so cool. And so it's like, so obviously to the viewers at home or the listeners at home, you wouldn't know, but like this is like my family's first interaction with Philip's parents. Like Philip and I hang out here all the time because this is the house that we play D&D in and things like that. So he knows my parents very well, but this is really my opportunity to get to meet and our opportunity to get to meet his parents for their first time. But I think the coolest part about it, they are fantastic people. It's like wonderful conversations, and it's so cool to feel that camaraderie of like these are experiences that we all share, even though we're in very different households and very different upbringings and things of that nature. Especially not having any like pre-knowledge of what your guys's or what your all homeschooling was like. Feeling very similar to how it was my feelings towards, how it was for me, and hearing the stories kind of are similar, and like, people have these shared experiences even though they're going to be unique. So I think that's a good motivation for anyone who's thinking about it, is it's like you will find people who are going to be able to relate to what you're going through, who are going to be able to help walk with you through the journey, whether they are homeschooling parents or whether it's a community, whether you're going to church or a homeschool group or just even a group of friends that you're able to go to and talk to. Like I know you talked about your mom's group, which I think was mostly from the church, but I know that not all. Yeah. So there are groups that are going to be able to come alongside you. There are people that want to help you and are going to be able to walk with you through that. And so I think it's the coolest part about like being homeschooled is that like you're not in a position where it's going to fall into your lap naturally. You have to go find it. But that just continues to extend as you go out into the real world of like, you're not going to make friends by sitting in your house. You're going to have to go find it. You're not going to make friends, just going to work. If you're not talking to people, you have to go and build those connections. And so it's the same thing in the real world. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for coming and making it all the way down here to our wonderful, not at all raining right now state. Florida weather. But this is awesome. This was really, really cool.
Before we close, I think we fixed the time-space continuum with this episode. I think we don't have to worry about the universe crashing and burning or doing anything else before, because everything is still here. But before we end, we should tell everyone about our socials.
Yes, absolutely. So that way you guys can hear about it as well and make sure that your friends and family. If you like what you watched today, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to us on your preferred podcasting place, feel free to like and subscribe, or if you want to follow along with us on whatever that podcasting app is, and also leave us a comment. Leave what your favorite answers to any of your own questions if you're a homeschooling parent, or answers to or what your thoughts were on some of the questions that we asked today. And if you want to see more of these episodes going forward, we have some ideas of doing more interview style episodes. There's some people that I'm friends with in my community that were homeschooled or are homeschooling or things like that I'm contemplating, asking to come over and do more of these interview style videos. And so if you like these and you want to see more of this, don't hesitate to let us know. And if you have any of your own stories, we got a whole semester we got to fill. So if you've got listener write-ins, you can reach out to us at shelteredsages@gmail.com. And just put in the listener write-in and share any of your crazy homeschooling stories. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've finished up everything that we need to. So thank you again, my father.
I was just thinking, every parent homeschools in some perspective. It's just how long you're going to choose to homeschool.
That's fair. Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. Well, thank you again, my mother.
Oh, all right, you're welcome. I do want to say I had someone call me yesterday about homeschooling, and there is such a thing as unschooling. So, research, we sounds like we homeschooled in a very similar way, but there are all kinds of thoughts about how that looks and different things that you can use. So explore.
That's fair. Absolutely. Thank you again, Mom. If there's any last words that you parting words. There we go. I was like, that sounds really finite. Yeah. Any parting words for listeners or viewers at home that you want to share?
I just want to reinstate how proud I am of both of y'all for doing this and just hearing your hearts and your love for what you received.
Thank you. And last but not least, my dad.
no, I just appreciate you giving us the opportunity to participate, and definitely enjoyed. And thinking about some of the podcasts, if you ever want us to pull out some photos or videos of your growing up, we do have quite the collection. We can add our own version of a best of.
So on that, no, it is funny because I remember I always used to say, I never thought that I looked like you. We talked about this the other day, but I never thought I looked like you growing up. It was, and then I saw you walking, and I thought it was me for a second because you were wearing like the same pattern of shirt that I wear, and your hair was cut the same way, and I was just like, whoa, weird deja vu moment. But yeah, so
we've got a lot of since I like technology, we got a lot of history there. If you ever need to do a memory lane or a remember when,
that might be a next future episode. We'll have to bring you guys back on.
Go back in time since you went to the future to sit.
That's true. We'll keep that in
to
mind.
the past instead of the future. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you guys so much.
And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.